All right, Falcon and the Winter Soldier rant and or breakdown, honestly. There's a few things that I want to talk about this episode and episode 5, but we're going to start with the John Walker firing hearing. Crazy. Like, and there's just so many layers to this, and I'm going to try to get this as close to 10 minutes as possible. That's usually my limit for these. But, my God, and again, like I want to say, John Walker is still a villain. Like I said before, and I won't take it back, I don't care what mental ailments you have. At a certain level, as an adult, you need to be held accountable for your actions. And we need to stop infantilizing certain demographics of people when they do fucked up things and making excuses for them, especially when other demographics don't get that same love, that don't get that same treatment. Like I said, and you know, regardless of the circumstances that led to it, like I said, trauma happens to you, but you can become a villain or a hero depending on what choices you make to respond to that. And that all comes down to character. And we can see the differences in character between Steve Rogers and John Walker. I take nothing back. But however, a lot of the things that happened in that hearing have so many fucking layers. Because again, you got to remember, this is also a show about the treatment of veterans, and we can't ignore that at all. So, like I said, first of all, I want to get it out of the way and just point out the complete lack of personal accountability from John Walker during this entire thing. You know, even in the hearing, being like, can I present the circumstances of what happened and trying to explain it away? And it's like, no, motherfucker, you committed a war crime. Like, there is no, there is no, you committed a fucking war crime. That's it. Accept the consequences of your fucking actions, okay? And like even in the opening fight when he was fighting Sam and Bucky, and he's like, look what you're making me do. Why are you making me do this? Why are you making me do this? This complete pathological lack of personal responsibility. It's like the actions that I'm doing aren't my own. It's those people, it's someone that made me angry that is making me do this. It's actually very common with like abusive spouses, abusive partners. Like I've seen my friends go through shit like that, you know? And that's why I say like mental illness is not a disqualifier for being evil, okay? It is not a disqualifier for being evil, and you are responsible for managing that if that is a part of your life. But the complete lack of personal accountability. Even when John Walker is saying like, I'm just trying to do what you told me to do, is basically like, you know, you made me into this, you built me, getting to another layer of that, first of all. But speaking from the perspective of John Walker as a person, the complete lack of personal accountability. Because, and any veteran will tell you this, like there are rules of engagement of who you can kill and when and under what circumstances. And you know, and it is very ironic that the military encourages a lot of toxic behaviors, toxic aggression and masculinity, and just things, you know, expecting a large group of people with toxic masculinity issues, women included, to adhere to ROEs in the UCMJ when you're also in a culture that enforces all these toxic behaviors. It's kind of an oxymoron, but still, you have a personal responsibility to know what those ROEs are, and he fucking knew what it was. Also, storming out of that hearing, like I said, and I say this, I said it before, I have known John Walkers to do shit like that. Literally losing, like, people that I outrank, white men that lose their mind, like losing their mind every fucking week at staff meetings with colonels and shit, high-ranking people. And it's just explained away, like, oh man, that's just John, that's just whatever, you know. But God forbid I have the wrong look on my face, or my career might be fucking over. I wish that was a fucking exaggeration, but it's not. It's absolutely not. And so that's why a lot of us were like, we're not fucking surprised. Like, yeah, we've seen John Walkers, and we see them get away with things like that all the time. If that was a black man, there is no way he would have gotten away with storming out, banging on the fucking podium. There is no way he would have gotten away with that. And like I said, and a lot of people are pointing that out, even people that were not in the military. So, like I said, the complete lack of personal responsibility from John's end is, again, Again, proving how different he is from Steve Rogers and like why he was never a good choice to begin with. But let's go into what he was saying when he was saying, like, you built me. Like, I've only tried to live my life by your mandates, by being what you wanted me to be. And that's the thing about the armed forces. Like I said, even though John was responsible for what the fuck he did, this is what the military does. And they're very open about this. They're like, at boot camp, they're like, we are gonna tear you down. We're gonna break you down and make you into what we want you to be. Break you down and make you into what we want you to be. And then they act like this new person that we're going to become is somehow better. And sometimes it is, but a lot of the time it's really, really not. It's really, really not. And it's very true. They build us and they brainwash us into what they want us to be. Even the strongest of minds are a little brainwashed. Like, and even I'm like, there's a lot that I'm going to spend a few years just trying to get the fuck out of my head. But at some level, we are all brainwashed into being what they want us to be. And they it like I said, it's like an abusive relationship, and they preach this stuff. Like in the Air Force, it was like, oh, your Air Force family, this is your Air Force family, we're like a family. I'm like, no, you're fucking not. It's such a gaslighting, because it's like every single one of us, no matter where we come from, no matter what we look like, at some level, we're all government tools. We are machinery to them. We are assets. We are assets. And once we are worn down, whatever that means, whether we pop off like John Walker, or whether we just become so injured that we can't function anymore, whether we kill ourselves or, our contract is up or whatever, they don't care. They will just do away with us however they want, which is exactly what they did to John Walker. Like I said, not saying that he didn't deserve consequences for what he did and the consequences that he did, but just like nothing, like they pumped his fucking ego up, took him on a press tour, made him feel like he was all big and bad, made him feel like the most amazing person in the world. And that's what they do. They create this insatiable need in us to please authority, to seek, validation and awards and stuff from authority, and make us feel worthless if we are lacking that validation. You create that in a whole bunch of people, and then and as soon as we're not useful to them anymore, no big deal. Like, bye. Because all along, you were never part of a fucking family. You were an asset. You're an asset. I've learned that the hard way. Now also, like I said, John Walker deserves the shit that he got, because that was horrendous what he did. But I do want to go into the mental health aspect of that. In a previous video, I talked about how a lot of, especially white people, because in the military, in mental health, if a black person or a person of color comes and tries to get mental health help, even if, like, in my experience, even saying like, hey, I am mentally unstable, I can't do this, like I am falling apart at the seams, the general response is, you're fucking fine. You're strong and black. Like, what the fuck? Like, you're fucking faking it. There are so many accounts of people like me trying to find help, and they're just like, and people are just like, oh, you're fucking faking it. Stop it. But like I said, a lot of my white friends, a few visits to therapy, and all of a sudden they are in trouble of getting kicked out of the military, because the same stigma exists in there as it does on the outside, that white feelings are just valued more. And so when someone comes with mild depression, for some reason, they are definitely at risk. If they're white, they're definitely at risk of being kicked out. And I had way more than mild depression and did not get the same treatment. But because of this, a lot of mental health professionals will tell mostly white people, a lot of white men, to not report their mental health issues for fear, if they want to have a long, successful career. And so you got a lot of people walking around, mostly white men, that need mental health help, but are afraid to get it because they don't want to lose their job. And they have been duped into thinking that they can just hold it down, that they can just suppress it and not be a sissy about it, and that everything is going to be fine. Now here's the fucked up thing. John Walker got absolutely no benefits upon being other than honorably discharged. That means that he cannot receive any VA benefits or disability for any ailments that he might have had in the military. Now, And somebody please out there correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been out for a little bit and my discharge was honorable. So I don't know. But here's here's the thing. My suspicions have always been that John Walker is probably one of those people that never reported their shit because of that fear that I talked about. Because of that fear that I talked about. And the fucked up thing is to get to if he had gone and reported any mental health issues, that would have been on file, first of all. So there would have been documentation in the system that he got PTSD or whatever during his service. And the thing is, and I believe, like I said, someone please correct me if I'm wrong, someone who knows better, that after all this went down, if there was any documentation that he had PTSD and the American government knowing that he had that, knowingly gave him the title of Captain America and sent him on all these dangerous ass missions and shit, knowing that he had any severe mental ailments or anything, they would be somewhat liable for doing that. Not that he wouldn't be still held personally accountable for what the fuck he did, but I believe they would be obligated to give him something, which he's a piece of shit. But as a veteran, like I do believe, like as much as possible, every veteran should be able to have access to some sort of mental health care, especially if you've got shit especially if shit happened to you while you're in the service. But here's the thing: if there is nothing documented, then it never happened. And that's how shit goes down in the military. If it wasn't documented, then it never happened. I really think that John Walker may have been one of those people that never went to get help because of that fear. And because nothing was documented, there is nothing there to prove that it was a service-connected disability. Because when you go and try to get disability from the VA, they will only compensate you for shit that they have determined happened while you were in the military, in the line of duty, as in you got this because you were doing your job. And if you hadn't been there in the line of duty doing your job, you wouldn't have gotten that ailment, PTSD, whatever, bad back, losing a leg, whatever. And so, but it's like when I had to apply for disability for PTSD, I had to send my doctor's notes, therapist notes, my diagnoses, lists of my medications, everything. Like, you got to give undeniable proof that you got that shit, because they don't want to give you money, first of all. The VA does not want to give you money. That's the thing. And so if you have no documentation that these things happened to you while you were in the military, there is no obligation to give you any compensation at all. And I believe, like I said, if someone knows better, please tell me. But I believe that even if all the shit went down like it did, but he had shit documented, I believe they would have been obligated to at least afford him some sort of disability, some sort of benefits, because they would have been liable because they sent him into that situation knowing that he had PTSD. But because it's very likely that that shit was never documented, because that is very, very common, that people are discouraged from reporting that, especially white people, because people are like, I'm just looking out for your career so that you can have a long career. But obviously having a good mental health is a little more important than having a good career. But if you want to support your family, maybe not. Maybe that's not a choice you make, right? And that's completely understandable, right? And so because of that, I think that might be a reason why they didn't give him any benefits, because it's very possible that legally and technically they were not obligated to, because that may have been an ailment that he never reported. And that's another way that we can get screwed out of getting the help that we need after we leave. Honorable, dishonorable, other than honorable discharge or whatever. Because regardless, from the government standpoint of their responsibility, because on their watch, he probably got PTSD or these ailments or whatever, yeah, they should give him some fucking benefits. Every veteran should be able to get mental health help, at least have the option from the VA, government sponsored. But because it's very likely that that shit was never documented, on paper, it looks like John Walker was just a normal ass person that was A-okay. And he snapped. And he did snap. Like I said, he's still fucking responsible for that shit. But there's probably no paperwork in the background saying that, like, yeah, he had PTSD and you sent him into this situation. And so in that case, government is not obligated to do shit for you. And maybe it's not people popping off like John Walker, but I think this does happen to I know this happens to a lot of veterans. They feel ashamed to go to mental health. They feel ashamed to have that on their record. But the thing is, when they get out, not having shit documented medically can hurt them as far as being able to get help when they get out. But that pressure, that toxic environment we come up in, sometimes can get in the way. And that is one of the ways that we get screwed over. And not many people know about that, I don't think. So, if there's anyone that knows a little bit more about this, I think that I am right. I think I'm right, based on my experience and what I know about the VA. So if there's anything different, please let me know in the comments. But as far as I know, if there was some sort of documentation, at least John would have been able to get some benefits. Maybe be able to go to VA therapy, however shitty it may be, but it's something. But no. And so all of this accumulated in this toxic environment with someone who already has a lot of character flaws, that they pumped up his ego. Pumped it up. And now he's not going to be able to get any government sanctioned help for what he's been through in his time in service. And even though he's a fuckwad, that objectively sucks. So, again, a little more insight into what this shit is saying about veteran treatment in America. John Walker's still a piece of shit, though. I feel like I need to make sure I keep saying that every 30 seconds so that people don't get it fucking twisted.